Katt Williams, shocks fans with new claims about Michael Jackson. In November 2024, Katt Williams walked onto a stage at the Vulture Festival and said something nobody expected. The comedian who'd spent nearly 2 decades cracking jokes about Michael Jackson suddenly admitted he was wrong. 3 simple words that sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. I shouldn't have. But that's just the beginning of this story, because what Williams revealed about his relationship with Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson's stunning reaction, and the dark underbelly of Hollywood fame is something you need to hear. 24 hours after Williams' viral interview with Shannon Sharpe hit the internet in January 2024, social media exploded. The comedian hadn't held back, calling out everyone from Steve Harvey to Kevin Hart to Diddy. But buried in all those headlines was something deeper. Williams' controversial claims about Michael Jackson's death and what really happened behind the scenes in the entertainment industry. Now, months later, we're finally getting the full picture of what Williams has been trying to tell us all along. Let me take you back to 2006. Katt Williams released a comedy special called The Pimp Chronicles Part 1 on HBO. At that point, Michael Jackson was still alive, still dealing with the aftermath of his 2005 trial, still fighting to clear his name. Williams didn't hold back. He made jokes about Jackson's appearance, his lifestyle, his legal troubles. Some of those jokes crossed lines that even other comedians wouldn't touch. Williams himself would later describe them as coming from a place of hurt and anger at his idol. The material was brutal. Williams questioned Jackson's identity, made implications about the allegations against him, and painted a picture of the king of pop that fed directly into the narrative that media outlets had been pushing for years. Audiences laughed. The special became hugely popular, and Williams kept the jokes coming in subsequent shows and interviews. But here's where things get complicated. In that same period, Williams was also speaking out about something else, something that would get him labeled as a conspiracy theorist by some and a truth-teller by others. He started making claims about Jackson's death that contradicted the official narrative. June 25, 2009. Michael Jackson died in his Los Angeles home. The official cause of death: acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication. His personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011 for administering the drugs that killed him. Case closed, right? Not according to Katt Williams. In videos that would resurface years later and gain new attention in 2024, Williams made a startling claim. He said Jackson's death wasn't an accident. Williams reportedly stated that he believed powerful figures in the entertainment industry had orchestrated the entire thing. According to reports of his statements, Williams said Jackson knew what was coming, that the title of his final tour, This Is It, was a warning, not just a farewell. "We watched this Michael Jackson get murdered right in front of our own face," Williams allegedly said in one video. He pointed to inconsistencies in the official story. First, they said Jackson was a drug addict. Then the narrative shifted. He was just asleep. Williams asked how someone could be labeled an addict one moment and simply sleeping the next. What changed? Who changed it? And why? Williams emphasized Jackson's final tour repeatedly. This Is It ran in London from March through July 2009. Jackson died just weeks before the tour was set to begin. The shows were going to be his comeback, his chance to remind the world why he was called the King of Pop. Williams argued that Jackson understood the significance of that title in ways the public didn't catch at the time. In his January 2024 interview with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay, Williams made another connection that raised eyebrows. He talked about speaking out about both Michael Jackson and R. Kelly years ago, and how the industry punished him for it. "When I talked about Michael Jackson, when I talked about R. Kelly, they canceled me for these things because why would you talk about another black dude?" Williams said during the interview. He was drawing a line between speaking uncomfortable truths and facing professional consequences. But Williams also revealed something else in that Club Shay Shay interview that would prove prophetic. When discussing Diddy, Williams mentioned turning down a $50 million offer. "I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times just to protect my integrity," Williams said, "'cause P. Diddy be wanting to party, and you gotta tell him no." This was in January 2024. By September 2024, Diddy would be facing serious federal charges. Williams had called it months in advance. This is where Williams's claims about Jackson take on a different dimension. He wasn't just talking about one isolated incident. He was describing a system, a machine in Hollywood that chews people up and spits them out. A machine that, according to Williams, took down Michael Jackson when he became too powerful, too independent, too much of a threat to the established order. According to reports from Fandom Wire in October 2024, Williams challenged the idea that Jackson's passing was merely an accident. He suggested instead that it was orchestrated by influential people within the entertainment world. Williams pointed to Jackson's premonition of his own death as evidence that something sinister was brewing. The comedian emphasized the artistic legacy captured in the "This Is It" concert footage, acknowledging how Jackson's sudden death impacted both fans and the music industry globally. The conspiracy theories surrounding Jackson's death aren't new. Ever since that June day in 2009, fans and observers have questioned the official story. Some pointed to Jackson's own statements before his death, where he expressed fear for his life. There are recordings of Jackson saying he felt threatened, that powerful people wanted to take control of his assets, particularly his half of the Sony ATV music catalog, one of the most valuable music publishing catalogs in the world, which included rights to the Beatles songs. Jackson's catalog was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. When he died, that asset became part of his estate. 7 years later, in 2016, Sony would purchase the estate's share of Sony ATV for $750 million. Some theorists point to this as evidence of a financial motive, but these remain speculations, theories that have never been proven in any court of law. Williams wasn't the only one questioning the circumstances. Jackson's father, Joe Jackson, publicly stated he believed his son was murdered. Other family members expressed similar doubts over the years. But official investigations never found evidence of a conspiracy beyond Dr. Murray's actions that night. Here's where Katt Williams' story takes an unexpected turn. Fast forward to November 2024, and Williams is sitting at the Vulture Festival with Jesse David Fox from the Good One podcast. The conversation turns to his comedy material, his career, his legacy, and Williams does something that shocks everyone who's followed his career. He expresses genuine regret for the jokes he made about Michael Jackson. "I shouldn't have, honestly," Williams said. His voice carried a weight that audiences rarely heard from the normally brash comedian. Like, "Some of these things are the reason that the enemy decides to go ahead and let you be famous. It's your ability to tear down your own kind no matter how high they are." Williams was acknowledging something profound. He realized that by making Jackson the butt of his jokes, by participating in the cultural mockery of the king of pop, he'd been doing exactly what the system wanted him to do: keep black icons from being elevated, keep them torn down, make it acceptable to disrespect them because even their own community was doing it. On the other hand, my job is to be funny first and to voice the opinion of a group that doesn't get to have their opinion out there, right? Williams continued. So, as a black man, if you don't love yourself, you don't love me. Those were the jokes of a man that was hurt by an icon. This admission was crucial. Williams wasn't just saying he regretted being mean. He was explaining why he'd made those jokes in the first place. He'd been hurt by Jackson. He'd seen his idol change his appearance, face terrible allegations, become the subject of worldwide mockery. And Williams, like many others, had responded with anger disguised as comedy. But the most stunning part of Williams's revelation came next. He revealed that years after making those brutal jokes about Michael Jackson, he'd encountered Janet Jackson, and her response left him speechless. The fact that, years later, Janet Jackson said she still loved me, despite the jokes that I told about her brother, is probably one of the most magnificent things. "You know," Williams said. His voice carried genuine emotion. "Just because I say a lot of hilarious things, but it costs me every time. Like I'm never unscathed in these situations." Janet Jackson's grace toward Williams stands in stark contrast to her reported reaction to other comedians. According to various reports, she's maintained a cold relationship with Chris Rock, who also made jokes about Michael. But with Williams, she chose forgiveness. She chose love. And that choice, according to Williams, meant everything. Think about what Janet Jackson had endured. watching her brother face allegations, trials, global mockery, watching him die tragically at age 50, watching the media continue to dissect his life even after death, and then encountering Katt Williams, one of the comedians who'd contributed to that public pile-on. She could have confronted him. She could have ignored him. Instead, she told him she still loved him. Williams's regret connects to a larger conversation about how Black entertainers are treated in the media and by their own community. The way Michael Jackson was portrayed in his later years, as strange, eccentric, possibly dangerous, became a template for how to tear down successful Black men. And comedians like Williams had participated in that template, even as they claimed to be truth-tellers fighting against the system. This brings us back to Williams' conspiracy claims about Jackson's death. Can both things be true? Can Williams regret mocking Jackson while still believing he was murdered by powerful forces? In Williams's mind, they're not contradictory. They're connected. He sees his jokes as part of the same machinery that allegedly took Jackson down. The jokes normalized the disrespect. They made it acceptable to view Jackson as less than human, as a punchline rather than a person. In November 2024, during another interview, Williams was asked about his earlier conspiracy theories. His response was telling. None of them were conspiracies, which is why they all happened. I believe we're entering the golden age, Williams said. He was referring to how many of his predictions, particularly about Diddy, had come true. He saw 2024 as a year of revelation when hidden truths would finally emerge. Williams added something else that's worth considering. Right after the age of truth, the revealing is the scab being pulled off, and then the healing can begin. He wasn't just making predictions. He was describing a process. The entertainment industry had to be exposed before it could be reformed. Uncomfortable truths had to come out before healing could start. But we need to be clear about something. Williams's claims about Jackson's death remain unproven allegations. There's never been credible evidence presented in any court or official investigation that supports the theory that Jackson was murdered by entertainment industry figures. Dr. Conrad Murray was convicted based on extensive evidence that he administered dangerous drugs to Jackson in a home setting without proper equipment or protocols. Murray served 2 years of a 4-year sentence. The Los Angeles County coroner ruled Jackson's death a homicide, but in the legal sense, meaning one person caused the death of another through criminal actions, that person was determined to be Murray, not some shadowy conspiracy of industry executives. Jackson's family did file a wrongful death lawsuit against concert promoter AEG Live, claiming they negligently hired Murray and pressured Jackson to perform. But in 2013, a jury found AEG Live was not liable for Jackson's death. These are the facts as established by legal proceedings. Williams' theories exist outside those official findings. That doesn't automatically make them wrong. History is full of official narratives that later proved incomplete or misleading. But it does mean we need to approach these claims with appropriate skepticism while remaining open to the possibility that there's more to the story than we know. What makes Williams's position particularly interesting is that he's consistently been willing to face consequences for speaking what he believes to be truth. In his Shannon Sharpe interview, he talked about being blackballed for speaking about Jackson and R. Kelly when others stayed silent. He talked about turning down massive amounts of money to maintain his integrity. Whether you agree with his claims or not, Williams has put his career on the line repeatedly. There's also the question of Williams's evolution. The man who made cruel jokes about Michael Jackson in 2006 is not the same man expressing regret in 2024. 18 years passed. Williams experienced his own struggles with the entertainment industry, his own cancellations and comebacks. He watched predictions he'd made come true, and he apparently came to see his earlier jokes about Jackson in a new light, not as truth-telling but as participating in something ugly. This kind of public reckoning is rare in comedy. Comedians often double down when criticized. They defend their right to say anything, to offend anyone, to push boundaries. Very few will admit that they pushed too far, that they caused harm, that they were wrong. Williams did exactly that. Consider the context of when Williams made his regretful admission. It came in late 2024, during one of the most successful years of his career. His Club Shay Shay interview had gone mega viral. He'd predicted Diddy's downfall and been proven right. He had leverage. He had vindication. He didn't need to apologize for anything to anyone. And yet he chose that moment to say he'd been wrong about Michael Jackson. That timing matters. Williams wasn't apologizing from a place of weakness or trying to rehabilitate a failing career. He was apologizing from a position of strength at the peak of his visibility and influence. That suggests the regret was genuine, not strategic. The entertainment industry Williams describes, one that elevates people who tear down their own, that punishes truth-tellers, that prioritizes profit over people, is not a conspiracy theory. It's a well-documented reality that countless artists, from multiple generations and backgrounds, have described experiencing. The specific claim that this system murdered Michael Jackson remains unproven. But the existence of the system itself? That's not really in dispute. Williams's story raises uncomfortable questions about complicity and responsibility. If the system exists, and if comedians, media figures, and other entertainers benefit from tearing down black icons, what responsibility do they bear for the outcomes? When Michael Jackson died, he'd been the subject of mockery, investigation, and suspicion for over a decade. Multiple court cases had found no criminal wrongdoing on his part regarding the most serious allegations. Yet the perception persisted. Jokes persisted. The disrespect persisted. And now Katt Williams is saying he regrets participating in that. He's saying Janet Jackson's forgiveness meant more to him than the laughs he'd gotten. He's saying he was hurt by his icon and responded by hurting his icon back. That's a level of self-awareness and accountability that's genuinely rare in entertainment. What happens next in this story? Williams is set to appear in One of Them Days, a buddy comedy film with Keke Palmer and Ezier that releases January 17, 2025. His career continues, his influence continues, and presumably his evolution continues as well. But the questions Williams has raised about Michael Jackson's death, about the entertainment industry's treatment of black artists, about the responsibility of comedians and media figures, those questions remain open. They demand engagement, not just dismissal. They require us to look at familiar events through a different lens. Michael Jackson died on June 25, 2009. 15 years later, we're still arguing about what really happened and why. Katt Williams has been part of that argument from multiple angles, as a mocker, as a conspiracy theorist, and now as someone expressing regret for his role in the public narrative about Jackson. Whether Williams is right about the conspiracy, we may never know for certain. But he's definitely right about one thing. The entertainment industry elevates people who tear down their own. It rewards mockery over respect. It turns tragedy into content. And even people who see themselves as truth-tellers and rebels can find themselves serving that machine without fully realizing it. Williams found himself serving it when he made those Michael Jackson jokes. He benefited from the laughs, from the edge it gave his reputation. And now he's admitting that benefit came at a cost. To Jackson's legacy, to his own integrity, and to something larger about how we treat black icons in American culture. The fact that Janet Jackson told Williams she still loved him despite everything speaks to her character, certainly. But it also speaks to a kind of grace that the entertainment industry desperately needs more of. The ability to forgive without forgetting. To hold people accountable while still recognizing their humanity. To allow for growth and change. That grace is what Williams experienced from Janet Jackson. And in expressing his regret publicly, Williams is offering a form of that grace back, acknowledging that he participated in something harmful, that he was wrong, and that he's trying to do better going forward. As we move into 2025, Katt Williams continues to be one of the most provocative voices in entertainment. His claims about Michael Jackson, both the conspiracy theories and the regretful apology, remain controversial. But they've also opened up important conversations about accountability, about the entertainment industry's treatment of black artists, and about how easily we all can become complicit in systems we claim to oppose. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If Katt Williams, at the height of his career, can admit he was wrong about Michael Jackson and express genuine regret, What does that mean for everyone else who participated in mocking the king of pop? What does it mean for media outlets that treated speculation as fact? What does it mean for an industry that profits from building people up just to tear them down? And what does it mean for all of us who laughed along? If you found this deep dive valuable, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Do you think Williams is genuinely remorseful, or is this just image rehabilitation? Do his conspiracy theories about Jackson's death hold any weight? Let's talk about it.